So what if a town didn't just rebuild after a disaster, but used it as a chance to become something, well, something even better? That's exactly the story we're diving into today with Picanya. We're looking at a presentation from the Regenerative para Resistir event, where municipal architect Rafael Calero laid out this incredible blueprint for resilience, showing how a long-term vision for a greener future was put to the ultimate test.
Calero's whole approach really kicks off with this simple but super powerful idea. We have to build thinking green and think about regenerating. His argument is that this shouldn't be some kind of special add-on or an afterthought. It needs to be totally second nature, as automatic as clicking your seatbelt when you get in a car.
All right, so here's how we're going to walk through Picanya's story. First, we'll get into that green thinking philosophy. Then we'll go back in time to see how they chose a really different path from their neighbors. After that, we'll see how that path held up when a massive flood hit. And finally, we'll look to the future to see the amazing, resilient town they're building right now.
So what really made Picanya so different? Well, the answer isn't something they did after the disaster. It's actually in the choices they were making for the last 70 years. Let's take a look at how their journey was just totally different from the towns around them.
I mean, the contrast here is just night and day. While the towns next door were just exploding with aggressive growth, basically paving over their entire landscape, Picanya made a really conscious decision to grow sustainably. They intentionally kept these huge green spaces, a choice that, as we'll see, turned out to be absolutely critical.
And that long-term vision, that idea of sustainable growth, it was eventually put to the ultimate test by a catastrophic flood. So the big question is, right? How did those decisions they made way back when actually help the town face this disaster head-on?
Well, it turns out that all those decades of investing in green infrastructure, it basically created this kind of unexpected shield. The very things that made the town a beautiful place to live also made it incredibly strong when the water started to rise.
And this just illustrates it perfectly. Trees. Get this, Picanya has over 20,000 trees for its nearly 12,000 residents. That's more than one tree for every single person. So during the flood, these weren't just for looks, they became vital infrastructure. They were physical barriers that stopped cars from being swept away, and their root systems literally held the banks of the ravine together.
But it wasn't only the trees. Other decisions played a huge role too. Things like having wider streets in the newer parts of town meant they could clear out debris and cars way faster. Those large green areas we talked about, they acted like giant sponges, just soaking up massive amounts of water. And, super important, more than half the town has a separate sewage system. That meant clean rainwater wasn't getting mixed with waste, which made it so much easier to manage.
Okay, so that brings us to the future. Picanya isn't just cleaning up and moving on. They're using this crisis as a catalyst. They're not just rebuilding, they're regenerating. They are literally engineering an even more resilient town based on everything they've learned.
And their guiding principle says it all. Rebuild better, not the same. It's so simple, right? They know that just putting everything back exactly the way it was is basically an invitation for the same disaster to happen all over again.
So their game plan moving forward is focused on 4 key areas of regeneration. And you'll notice a theme here. They're all leaning into nature-based solutions. It's about working with nature, not trying to fight it, to get ready for whatever comes next.
Now, in the areas that were hit the absolute hardest, we're talking places where floodwaters reached a staggering 4.5 meters deep, they're creating something called floodable parks. This idea is just brilliant. On a normal day, they're just parks, for sports and hanging out. But during a flood, they're engineered to become safe containment zones, giving all that excess water a place to go without destroying people's homes. And the bridges that got washed away, they're being completely rethought. Instead of just building them the same way, the new designs are way more resilient. They have fewer pillars, and the ones they do have are more hydrodynamic, more streamlined. That simple change means water can flow through much faster, with less resistance, which dramatically reduces the pressure that makes a bridge collapse in the first place.
They're also expanding their use of sustainable urban drainage systems, or SUDs. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple. Instead of just funneling clean rainwater away in a pipe like it's a problem, these systems are designed to let it soak naturally back into the ground. This helps recharge the underground aquifers, putting water back into its natural cycle and taking a huge burden off the drainage system.
And this whole idea of regeneration goes way beyond just managing water. It's a holistic approach, They're improving insulation in older homes to make them more energy efficient. They're building on a commitment to solar power that they started way back in 2009. And they're planting new urban forests to make the town's green canopy even stronger.
You know, if there's one single lesson to take away from Picanya's entire story, it's this. The sum of microactions is of great importance. Their resilience wasn't built overnight with some single, flashy, expensive mega project. No, it's the result of thousands of small, green-minded decisions made consistently over decades.
And this really brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. As we see extreme climate events become more frequent and more intense all over the world, is Picanya's long-term, nature-based, small step-by-small step approach the model that our own cities have to adopt if they hope to not just survive, but actually thrive?